What's up guys, I'm Nathan and in this video I'll be showing you guys the updated anime adventures tier list for the new Hunter x Hunter update. So like always, S tier is going to be for the characters that are meta and pretty close to meta, that are really good and are completely outclassed basically. A tier is going to be the characters that are very good, but I mean not going to be the best. B tier is going to be the characters that are best for beginners. C tier is going to be characters that are okay for beginners, and D tier is going to be characters that are bad even for beginners. Starting off with Netero, he's going to be low to bottom S tier. He's got a kind of low range around 35 and does 2400 damage. He's got very good AoE, but you can only place 3, which is why I'll actually just put him in top A tier on a second thought. He is a very good character, but I just wouldn't say that he's the best because Coyote Stark, Ulcora and MERUEM overall are just going to be better because you can place more of them. And Coyote Stark just totally outclasses his DPS. Then we have HISOKA, who's going to be in S tier because he is a supporting legendary who slows and stuns, which is actually really good. He also hits faster than both Dio and Rukia, which is once again pretty damn helpful. Then we have Coyote Stark, who's obviously S tier. He has insane DPS, and additionally he summons exploding wolves that have AoE that do around 33% of his damage, which is just really good. This is the unevolved version of Kisuke, who's going to be in A tier. I mean, nothing much to say about him, he's not that great. This is going to be Pito. Now, she's going to be doing around 2600 DPS at level 70, accounting for crit. And here's the interesting thing. Pito has crit, which is a 25% chance of dealing double damage, plus stun, plus bleed, which is actually pretty good. With around 30 range, which is kind of bad. But I mean, she's definitely going to be a replacement for Jozu. Like, she totally outclasses Jozu for bleeding, which is obviously useful because you can use it to combat the regening mobs. MERUEM is going to be right about there in S tier as well, because MERUEM actually does again a similar DPS as compared to Pito, with a similar range and a decent AoE. But the interesting thing is that he's hybrid, so he's actually going to be a better version of Uryu because he's got significantly higher DPS. Even though his range is quite a bit lesser, I would still definitely pick MERUEM because Uryu is a bit RNG based. Then we have Ulcora, who I would say is still gonna retain his spot as a really good character. Ulcora and MERUEM are just sort of like alternators for each other. You can use like whatever you want. Ulcora does around 2100 DPS with 42 range, and yeah, actually I'll just keep him next to Pito because right now he's sort of like he's less useful right now, I would say, compared to these characters because he's got lesser DPS, even though he does have more range and better AoE. Then we have Uryu, who I would say is top A tier because Uryu is definitely going to be outclassed by MERUEM. Then we have Gon, who is actually just like he is in ASTD or All-Star Tower Defense. In case you didn't know, he's got a massive range with AoE, full AoE, which is amazing. He's got a really high amount of damage, but at the same time he's got a ridiculously high SPA, and the effect is literally pretty much the same. He's definitely going to be like Broly on steroids because more range, more damage, but also more SPA. So I mean, honestly, I would say he's like the new best full AoE character. It's only going to be around 1600 DPS, but that is still amazing compared to most of the other units, and I would still say that it's a lot more helpful than most of the other units. Then we have Kisuke Bankai, who is going to be able to buff your range as well as SPA. Honestly, can be really helpful on characters like Gon because that's going to significantly reduce the SPA. Then we have Aizen, whose ability is kind of he's gonna be able to like push the enemies back, sort of like Funny Valentine, just worse because it doesn't even buy you an entire wave, and honestly it's just not really that useful. Then we have Rukia, who's gonna be right about there. She's gonna be full AoE. Once again, you can place 4. I'm just putting these positions based on your guys' votes in my poll. Then we've got Killua, who's a pretty interesting character. He's gonna be able to stun, and he's got a really quick SPA. He also does decently good damage. Overall, it's like 2200 DPS at level 70 and good AoE. So overall, it's actually a pretty nice character to have, and I would say it's probably meta. Then we have Gon, obviously top D tier. He's gonna be a really good character for beginners. He's actually got one of the highest DPS out of the legendaries, if not the highest DPS among the legendaries. And the interesting thing is, obviously, you can evolve him using 10 of him into the mythical Gon, and then you can further evolve the mythical Gon into, well, Gon with 3 question marks. Then we've got a weird character, Kite. This character, honestly, like, he's not bad. I just don't find him very reliable. He's gonna be the new secret unit. Basically, you can get the mythical and then you can further evolve it to get the secrets, sort of like Kisuke. But I would say that Kisuke is any day better. And this character, well, it's interesting because when you evolve it, you can get different, well, traits of sorts. Frenzy is gonna be the best one DPS wise. But obviously it's not guaranteed you will get it. Additionally, his attack mechanics keep changing every 15 seconds, I think, and there's a 20% chance of getting an extremely good attack mechanic, like where he uses mace or something, but the other 2 attack mechanics that he gets, which is an 80% chance, are kind of bad actually. But I'm gonna go ahead and put him right there, top 80. Lelouch is gonna be probably again around 8 here because let's be honest, he's not really meta. I mean, he's good but not meta because summoner type units, no matter how much damage they deal, it's just not going to be helpful once a ridiculous amount of enemies start coming in. Ace gonna be the old secret unit, Luffy Marineford. And then we have the leaderboard unit, Future Gohan, who's gonna be right there. Honestly, he's not bad. He does like 1000 plus DPS, but obviously he would not really be useful. Eren, Summoner. Then we have Genos. We have Sanji, who basically is really cheap to place down. We've got Piccolo, who has a lot of range. We've got Levi, who's gonna be right about there. For his evolved version, he's like Uryu, but worse, like AoE wise. Then we have Speedwagon, who's gonna be right there because, you know, the money. Then we've got Akainu, who's gonna be right about here. I mean, he's got a good AoE, but his DPS is definitely outdated. Then we have Crocodile, we've got Zenitsu, we've got Gaara, who actually stuns, we've got Law, who is single target but with good DPS. We have Erwin, who's actually really good because he's gonna be amazing for story and challenge, especially for beginners, and he's gonna be buffing all your units by 25%, which essentially is gonna help more than a mythic because you're getting a lot of DPS, especially if you've got a full mythic setup. Then we've got Whitebeard, who's gonna be like a pretty decent support, but definitely not the best. He's gonna be like a manual version of All Might. Then we've got Blackbeard, who's gonna be able to curse with basically making the enemies take 1.5 times the damage, which is really helpful. Then we've got Goku Black, who's gonna be right about here. One of the worst legendaries, but I mean, it does have a lot of range. Mihawk is decent, but his AoE cone is just really small. I mean, AoE, rectangular AoE actually, or line AoE. Then we have Sakura, who's gonna be right there, pretty good because it's gonna be 10% buff, and you don't have to actually focus on buffing because it automatically does it for you. Then you have Giorno, who's gonna be right there, Goku, who's gonna be right there. I'm not really explaining these characters because most of them I'm sure you know about. Josuke does stun, but it's only single target. Then we have this dude who's gonna be right about here. All Might is obviously gonna be quite helpful because he's gonna be able to push the enemies back, but Killua is possibly better just because he's gonna be doing it a lot faster and giving you a bit of a better DPS. Then we have Frieza, who's going to be top D tier, not bad as an epic. Todoroki slows, so it's like a really beginner version, though I would say you should definitely get HISOKA if you really want that slow. Then you have Broly, who's gonna be right about here. Moved him down to A tier now. Full AoE, but obviously very clearly outclassed by Gon. Then we have Killua, who's gonna be right there. Madara is going to be like a lot lower now, just gonna be around there. Then we have Bulma, who's gonna be here. I mean, she also gives money. We've got Kakyoin, who has a lot of AoE. We've got Shanks, who is obviously amazing. Like, Shanks is not really gonna get outclassed anytime soon because he's gonna be the only character which has full AoE, does good DPS, and additionally he basically time stops, which is obviously gonna be meta for a long time. Then we have Overhaul right about there. We have Kizaru, who is not really that great of a legendary. We've got Diavolo, who's a pretty bad mythic. I'm gonna put him like right there. Like, Diavolo is trash. Then we have Rengoku, who is going to be I would say probably C tier because Rengoku's DPS is really not that good. Then we have Dio, who is going to be right about there because Dio is just amazing on story, challenge, pretty much everything. Additionally, he time stops automatically, which is just really nice. Then we've got Armin, who's going to be right about here because Armin, well, basically he sounds this colossal titan, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't do really much damage, and the cooldown is really long, plus it's a manual ability. So yeah, he's going to be right there. Then you have got Kakashi, who's pretty bad because he costs a lot and doesn't really do a lot. Then we've got Katakuri, who basically slows down the enemies, obviously really helpful with a good AoE as well. We've got Pain, who is pretty decent, I would say, but I'll go ahead and put him like right about here because I mean he's not going to be better than, well, the mythics, but he is a good support because he does push back the enemies. So if you don't have All Might, you can use Pain. Then you've got Jotaro, who's going to be right there, basically a weaker version of Shanks. We've got Itachi, who will be right there. Darby, who is going to be right about here. Eren, Founder Titan, is going to probably be right about there because Eren is decent, but again, it's a summoner type unit, which is definitely going to be very limited in power. We've got Naruto Beast Cloak, who is going to be a bit on the lower side, right below Future Gohan as well. We've got the regular Naruto, who's going to be right about here. Zeke is going to be right next to him. He's got a lot of range. We have Jozu, who has been outclassed by the new character, that is Pito. So Jozu is now just going to be in top 8 tier, right about there. As a bleeder, then we've got Noro, who's going to be right there. Pretty good character for story mode. Obviously Dio is better. Toka is going to be right there. I mean, Toka is also pretty good. Pretty good range in AoE, but Gon overall is a better investment because you can actually get a mythical out of it, which is actually a nice thing. Then we've got Tatara, who's going to be probably right about here, just above Akenu and maybe even Uryu, because Tatara does do double burn, which is pretty nice. Then we've got Ramsay, who's going to be in B tier. Ramsay is kind of meh as a secret unit from the Tokyo Ghoul map. Then we've got Ito, who basically increases her damage. It's just that this damage is not really that much, and it's pretty obviously outclassed now. You're going to be right there in A tier. Then we've got Kaneki, who's going to be right about here, because Kaneki actually is going to be able to bleed. So it's like, for beginners, it's going to be pretty good on the Tokyo Ghoul map. Then we've got Rima, who's going to be in obviously S tier. I'll go ahead and put him right next to Ulcora. They're sort of similar. I wouldn't say they're totally outclassed. They're still better than the ones in A tier, but they're definitely on the verge of getting outclassed. And I can tell you guys, by next update, they are going to get completely outclassed. And that's why I would not really recommend for you guys to go for them. Then we've got Akaza, who's going to be top B tier. We've got Rengoku's Evolution, who's going to be right about there, like still a very good one. Akaza Destruction is going to be like right next to it. He basically can buff himself, which is pretty nice. We've got Grimjow, who is going to be a pretty nice DPS legendary. I'm going to go ahead and put him right there. We've got Hollow Ichigo, who is okay but worse than Ramsay. And finally, we've got the new leaderboard unit, who's actually a little bit like sort of equal to Gohan. So that's pretty much it for this tier list. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And let me just go ahead and show you guys the full tier list. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.